Welcome to the Meow Tavern. Hello everyone. Today's video we're going to go over the anime and manga series The Witch and the Beast. This manga has been on a long hiatus and I really hope that it comes back eventually because I really enjoyed it. It goes over supernatural and magic elements and I really enjoy both of those, so I thought I would share that with you guys today. So, like most of my summary videos, chances are this video will be unnecessarily long, but I love a good retelling and chances are I might miss out something, so feel free to comment in the comments and let me know if I missed out something. Go grab your snacks and let's dive in to this dark magical world. How to break a witch's curse. Method 1. A kiss from a prince on a white horse. Why a white horse? I don't know. Don't ask me that. Okay. Method 2. Hope that the wrathful witch has had a change of heart. And method 3. With that, we begin episode 1 of the anime and chapters 1 and 2 of the manga. Ashraf and Guido make their way to a city that has been cursed 400 years ago. The curse was said to be sealed away, but the two have their suspicions. Marie, the witch's apprentice, comes across the two at a bakery and is pleased to help acquaint them with her mistress. But as soon as she's about to give more intel, there's a beast attack in the city. The loud roars send a ripple shockwave, gaining Guido's attention. They head outside to catch a glimpse of the commotion and witness the witch fight off the monster. The townspeople love her. Something doesn't add up, Ashraf thinks, and Guido, well, she's running up to attack the witch head-on without a warning before getting detained by the witch's spell and slammed onto the ground. Some officers run over to arrest Guido. She tries to warn everyone of the dangers of affiliating themselves with a witch, how they'll all die. Before Guido is escorted away by the local police, Ashraf shows up with his crows and poofs the two away. Later, the two show up at the witch's mansion to only be turned away by Marie. There's a celebration at the witch's palace, and some guests have been invited for the special anniversary. Ashraf and Guido head back to the hotel to dig up more information on the city's history. After collecting what they needed, they start heading back to the witch's mansion. But on their way there, they're attacked by the local police. Meanwhile, at the mansion, 1 second all is well, and the next, Marie wakes up to the dead bodies of the other guests. Turns out, the witch who saved the city from 400 years ago was this witch's grandmother. The townspeople had actually murdered the witch that sealed away the curse. All they saw was a witch to blame and burned her up. Since then, every witch got horribly executed by the people of the town, until this current witch showed up, devoting herself to earn the people's trust and helping them, going above and beyond, but slowly plotting, waiting 142 years to finally get her revenge. She plans to use the body parts of the women she invited and Marie to unseal the hellfire, set the damn city ablaze. Marie can't believe it. She used to admire her mistress, looked up to her. Why would she do this? The witch willingly became friends and close to the people of the town, just so she could enjoy her revenge a tad bit more. Guido and Ashraf make a flashy entrance on scene. We discover from this encounter that Guido is out to find the witch who placed a curse on her and kill her to remove the said curse. Gonna be honest, Guido was getting her ass beat by the witch before Guido was able to gain some distance between the two. And method 3. Kiss a witch. Kissing the witch unleashes a menacing form, Guido's true form. It resides in the coffin box bag that Ashraf carries around. A witch had placed a curse on Guido, removing her soul from her body and into the witch's own body. Reasons are unclear. Everything is shrouded in mystery. The fight between this witch and the beast doesn't last long. The beast overpowers her, bringing an end to this horrid night. Guido is the beast and Ashraf is the first-class mage working for the magic Order of Magic Resonance. And I wasn't expecting that. I thought Guido would be the witch and Ashraf would be the beast, but yeah, I clearly did not know what the heck I was getting myself into when I started this. The two bring back witches to the Order and carry out many missions while trying to track the witch that cursed Guido. The order is very mysterious, and we don't learn too much about it throughout the series. Before we continue, I will describe how witches are in this series. They are always powerful, manipulating natural elements, psychological elements, and appear enchanting. When using their powers openly, markings appear on their faces. This marking changes from witch to witch, but it's always present. In some cases, they look like they have a face full of makeup as well in this form, lips plump, eyes shimmering. Episode 2 and 3, chapters 3 to 5. The Witch's Pastime. Ashraf and Guido are on standby at the Order, conducting side missions. Guido is growing restless by the lack of action. She even gets a bit too excited and yells out, "A witch!" at this old lady who's their client for a side mission. She needed help unsealing a box, which Ashraf is more than happy to assist with. He uses his spellcast abilities to unlock the box for the old granny. Frustrated by the lack of action, Guido threatens Ashraf on how she can't wait for the day her curse breaks and she can finally kill him, to which he responds with, "I'm looking forward to seeing that day." Banter over. The next day, finally a black envelope is delivered, indicating that the case involves a witch. Guido's all fired up. Exactly what she needed. The two are out again, heading to the city of Hayden upon the city's mayor's request. There's a witch going on, a grotesque killing spree in the city of Hayden in the fourth continent of the West. Once at Hayden, the two come across a police officer who is investigating the witch case, Kira. Ashraf gains her attention by reading out aloud the newspaper and the details listed on the 36 killings. Kira is a mage, and so she begins spelling out runes to create some sort of defense attack against the shady individuals before her. Noticing her hand behind her back, Ashraf politely requests for her to stop the movement of her hand and to hear them out. Brutal murders take place every night, a gory sight indeed. If you're into spooky, gory, scary horror content and anime, this one right here. The detective and the two sit down for dinner, exchanging information with each other. The detective coughs up information about the brutal murders, and Ashraf lets her know more about them and why they are there. The Order of Magical Resonance will assist in this investigation, with the end goal of obtaining their hands on the witch responsible. The next day, the hunt is on. The detectives team believes that there's a witch behind all of this, because of 1, the overwhelming force involved, and 2, the messages left behind at each crime scene. The detective takes Ashraf and Guido over to a bookshop where the culprit had ordered books from. She always frequents the spot for grimoires as well. She feels as if they're close to the suspect, but walks into one of the shop's rooms, discovering a dismembered body of the shop owner. Kira starts feeling defeated and tries to shoo away Ashraf, feeling as if she brings misfortune to those close to her. She drops off the two near their hotel later at night. As soon as her car is out of sight, the witch attacks Ashraf and Guido, vanishing before they get a chance to strike back. This interaction causes the two to question the witch's connection to the young detective. Why is the witch obsessed with hurting everyone around Kira? They meet up with her to report the incident, to figure out a proper connection. The series of unfortunate events began when her old apartment building collapsed, mangling the residents along with her foster/adopted kids. Since then, reports of purple smoke following a murder began. In one of the purple smoke incidents, the cops were present, ready to take on the entity, but Kira ends up losing her boyfriend in such a brutal manner. I might have to use the manga panel because of a block of brick or building panel slams onto his face, smashing his head into tiny pieces. An officer butts into the conversation Kira, Ashraf, and Guido are having with the reports of a notice. The witch has left an advance notice of their next attack in 3 days. They prepare for the confrontation. On the third day, the alerts go off. The witch is here. It's showtime. A couple of objects are flung around. Cars, debris, purple smoke, and chaos. It's a bloody massacre. With the successful attack complete, the witch poofs away. It's not able to get away too far since Ashraf uses his familiars to track them down. The three rush to an abandoned building. Guido tries to sneak attack the witch but notices another person in the corner. Startled, Guido warns Ashraf about the presence of another being. From the shadows emerges 2 young boys. Who the heck are these kids? They aren't witches. Once on scene, Kira's facial expression goes pale. These 2 boys are her lost supposedly dead sons, Shulk and Loran. In their hands, a powerful grimoire. A grimoire acts as a proxy for magic power and spell casting. Therefore, one does not need magical expertise to use one. It grants the user witch-like powers. So what's their story? They blamed Detective Kira for the whole thing. One day they saw a grimoire at the house, and because they touched it, it began demanding sacrifices from them, or it would eat them. So they killed because they had to. They say this, but the way they killed people and the people that they picked makes Kira think that maybe they weren't exactly being compelled. Remember that massacre from earlier? Well, dummies with fake blood, meant to deceive the fake witch, meaning the boys haven't completed their quota for the day for the grimoire. Guido then knocks the fucking daylights out of the two boys, and Kira pulls the trigger, putting an end to this witch mystery. I will say, she could have just arrested the two boys and they could have like stood on trial for it, and maybe the victims families would have felt like they've gotten proper justice. But I don't know how the law works in regards to witches and magical crimes, so maybe killing them was the best way around. I don't know. Episodes 4 and 5, chapters 6 to 9. Beauty and Death. If magic is involved, they'll take on any mission regardless of the danger. A group by magic, for magic, and of magic. The Order of Magical Resonance. In this act, we're introduced to Fenora, a necromancer, and her assistant Johann. There's been an increase in undead cases in this city, but Ashraf doesn't specialize in necromancy, so he refers the police to Fenora and Johann. One of the detectives, Jeff, goes to greet the two. The air seems colder around Fenora. She seems otherworldly. After extracting the details of the case, Fenora instructs everyone to head to a faraway abandoned location to light up her lantern. This lantern can only be seen by the undead and should lure those who have been illegally resurrected. By the way, in this world, certain continents allow the revival of lost loved ones. So this is one of the other information we have in regards to the law, maybe. Well, specifically for necromancy. They were hoping to see just a handful of undeads, but to their surprise, there was a horde of them, pushing up against the glass window, trying to get inside. Crack! The glass window breaks and the horde comes rushing in. To distract the horde, Fenora places the lantern light on Johann, who has to fight them off. After this encounter, Fenora shares her theory that the undead are familiars, and the necromancer must have had those undeads on auto or semi. There can be 3 stages of necromancy. 1. Auto, where the necromancer gives the revived individual full autonomy. 2. Semi. They hold some control over the revived. 3. Domination. The revived is manually controlled by the necromancer. Once a soul is revived, when it eventually dies again, it won't be able to reincarnate. The unconsciousness wanders in the dark forever. This state is called the void. Fenora struggles to understand the purpose of these undead. Why were they resurrected? What was the purpose they served? There are a lot of redheads and women amongst the undead. Maybe the caster has a preference? They follow the trail of the footprints left by the hordes and find themselves at the mansion. The necromancer greets them in the body of a young dead woman. During this interaction, Johann not only gets surprise attacked, but his throat is slit. The necromancer needed a hostage to use against Fenora, and he was the only option to use against her. They follow the caster into his mansion upon his request. Fenora is pissed, but keeps her cool. Once at the dining room, where the real necromancer is sat, Detective Jeff and Fenora notice how all the maids present were young women, redheads. Definitely their caster. He invites Fenora to sit and chat. He is enamored by her beauty. He wants to use her body for the revival of his lost lover. She sustained harsh burn wounds before her death that he can't figure out how to undo. All the resin he has been doing has just been practice. He attempts to seize Fenora, but she just blasts his undead without a sweat. The atmosphere changes, and markings known as Ultima appear on Fenora's face, indicating that she's a witch. She summons her Death Knights, and orders for them to leave Detective Jeff alone. But other than him, everyone else is fair game. It's a bloodbath. The necromancers run over to the coffin of his dead lover, and is greeted by Johann, who appears to have been undead all along. Since he is a witch's undead, his maintenance is different, and he seems to have full autonomy, plus quick regeneration and healing. Johann tortures the necromancer before Fenora heads over and ends the job, converting the once necromancer into her own undead, commanding him to maintain the appearance and sanity of those undead that he had revived. If those poor souls were brought back against their will, they might as well get a chance to live their second time on Earth peacefully without issues. If the necromancer fails to complete this task, Fenora will give him hell. Episode 6 to 9, chapters 10 to 21. The Witch and the Demon Sword. Another set of murders caused by a witch. Well, possibly. The Order is having Ashraf and Guido investigate, but things might get tricky because they are headed to the third continent. Since it's closer to the first, the Paladin Corps might, and definitely does, get deployed. The two will have to fight to get their hands on the witch before the Paladin Corps does. The Paladin Corps is the biggest religious organization in the largest holy church, protecting everyone with magic. They are magical police. Well, there's actual police with magic, but for now, they are magical police. The first continent is said to be where the Holy Church is, and the Holy Church is said to be the beginnings of everything magic. Or so with what the manga says so far. So, the closer a continent is to the first one, the more magic and different kinds of entities and more magically developed those countries are. The further away a continent is from the first one, the more, well, scientifically developed and science integrated technology do they have, and magic and science overlap in those countries. So those are places where you would see cars, whereas you would see maybe more closer to the first, carriages and stuff. Once at the city, they notice members of the Paladin Corps swarming the streets. The two finesse their way past the Paladin Corps stationed at the front of the barrier and into the sealed section of the city. Meanwhile, we get introduced to the strongest members of the Paladin Corps at the location, Lieutenant Matt Kuga. He has ice abilities due to his pact with the elemental force, powers on par with a witch. He is what's known as an elemental specialist. His team deploys these manually controlled puppet bodies, searching for the area for the suspected witch. This method avoids unnecessary loss of crew members. Joining them on this witch hunt is this man, sent by the Holy Church. All of you need to know, for now, that he is quite suspicious, so lock him in your mind. On ground, Helga, the witch, is being chased by the Paladin Corps decoy troops. She takes care of the decoys and yells out how she doesn't want to die yet. She hasn't even had a boyfriend. As soon as she thinks she's in the clear, Guido attacks her. Things aren't looking so good for the young witch. She's cornered by Ashraf and Guido. Ashraf places a compression spell on her and reduces her into this small ball, hoping to contain her without having to cause a commotion and attracting the Paladin Corps. Unfortunately for them, she breaks out of that compression state due to the possession of the demon sword, the sword that her clan of witches have dedicated their lives to keeping sealed. If unsealed, it would cause massive destruction. Ashraf tries to set up a truce with Helga and offers to protect her from the paladins. He's got a hunch that she might not be behind the murders happening around the city, but she declines as the second wave of paladins' undying soldiers are deployed. Ashraf and Guido are on their radar too, since they trespassed, and the paladins can't identify them. Helga doesn't get too far before the actual Matt Kugat shows up. The lieutenant is an incredible force to be reckoned with. She can't keep up with him, but luckily Guido shows up to protect Helga. Ashraf uses his familiar for communication, requests Guido to avoid using the witch's kiss trick, and to try and get away from the scene with Helga since the lieutenant is a bit too much for them right now. The fight scenes between Matt and Guido are neat, both in the anime and the manga. The line art in this manga has such a big grip on me. It's so pretty. The plot isn't anything that I haven't seen before, but it keeps me engaged. To avoid getting a little too in-depth, I'll paraphrase the next series of events. At some point, after a long sequence of fighting and escaping, Matt and the paladins end up capturing Guido and Helga. The demon sword is to be taken into custody. Ashraf goes to chat with Matt and questions him about the witch murder cases, how it might be his own biases against witches getting in the way of justice. Anytime there's a crime, people blame it on witches without proper proof. He info dumps to the lieutenant about the existence of executioners and how they are just using the paladins as a pawn to hunt any and every witch. There isn't any proof of Helga committing the murders. As a matter of fact, Helga had just arrived to the town looking for a great time, and every person she had interacted with in that town just happened to end up dead. So it totally looked bad for her. She was getting framed and lured out. Someone had known about her and the demon sword. The demon sword is the true objective. Helga is just needed to unseal it for our villain. As the conversation is wrapping up, the lieutenant finds himself in a pinch. His own squad mate, Loel, turns on him, inflicting a serious injury on him with her weapon, burning through his ice due to him holding back. He can't determine if his teammate has been brainwashed or what. Loel attacks Ashaf, but Matt manages to keep the damage low on him with his ice shield. Meanwhile, at the Paladin Corps base, the demon sword starts bewitching the Paladin Corps members into slaughtering each other for the sword's power. It's a crazy mess. It's revealed that the underground executioners are the one behind the accusations thrown at Helga, just like Ashaf had suspected. They kill witches regardless of whether they are good or evil. Right now, one of them has gone rogue and is seeking out the demon sword for his own personal gain. This guy right here, remember him? The one I told you to be suspicious of? This executioner has a forbidden instrument that allows him to control the mind of others and bend them to his will. He's also working on his own. Usually executioners work in pairs, but this dude is just fucking gone rogue. Helga's all like, how the fuck did I get wrapped up in all of this? I just wanted a boyfriend. The controlled paladins and the executioners with the demon sword approach Helga. As they close in, Guido breaks free from her restraints and helps Helga escape. All feels hopeless when one of the undying paladin soldiers gains a grip on Helga's foot, so she shoves Guido out of harm's way, handing her the demon sword to take, begging her to escape and come save her at a later time, to prevent the executioner from getting his hands on the sword. The executioner uses his instrument, the demon hand, to infiltrate Helga's mind. He had already influenced most of the folks at the Paladin Corps at this particular base. Forbidden instruments are tools used to enhance magical power, control, and influence over people or nature. The tools can be grimoires, accessories, swords, or tools created through blood and flesh. We get a backstory of Helga. She lived isolated with her family. They were a special clan of witches, tasked with keeping the demon sword sealed away. Unsealing the sword would destroy the world, or at least help nuke a bunch of cities. Their ancestors had vowed to keep the sword hidden away, only its consciousness awake, while its powers lay dormant. One day, while Helga sneaks out to check out the demon sword, her family is attacked by a group of executioners. She hears loud sounds and sneaks around to see the chaos unfolding. Her mother is brainwashed, murdering her own children. One of Helga's siblings manages to escape and finds Helga, pleading with her to run as far away as she can with the demon sword, while she holds off the executioners off Helga's trail. Since then, Helga has been keeping a low profile, moving slowly city to city, keeping the demon sword by her, hidden. Well, that is until this executioner finds her. I'm going to keep calling him executioner, but eventually when the story starts having other executioners, I might say executioner 2 or something, because this manga sometimes breezes through character names or barely uses them from non-protagonist characters. Anyway, Guido finds Ashaf and Matt. Everyone gathers their shit together, from their stories, new intel, and getting healed by Ashaf. They prepare for another wave of attack by the Paladin, Undying soldiers, and the Executioner. Through Helga, the Executioner is able to sneak attack the others and obtain the demon sword, striking it through Helga's heart, unsealing the demonic form free. Once the demon form is free, no one is having fun, not even the Executioner, because his demon hand instrument doesn't work against the chaotic creature. It's free to do as it pleases. The damage this monster causes is enormous. Lieutenant tries to fight back its attacks, but it's not working. Plus, he's kinda almost out of gas because he did die, so, he's not in the best shape to fight. Helga, in the middle of this tension, cries out how she hasn't even had her first kiss, to which Ashaf offers an opportunity to fulfill Helga's wish. Of course, he doesn't include the tiny detail of Guido being the one to fulfill it. But a witch's kiss is all they need to let loose Guido's true form to try and take down the executioner and the rampaging demon sword. The lieutenant helps by offering up one of his arms to the ice element in exchange for more power. He creates ice storm creatures to go up against the demon sword, but it's slow and isn't inflicting much damage. With the help of Beast Guido, the tides turn. The battle is on a large scale. So much destruction and chaos. I always can't help but wonder how much that would cost to like rebuild all those homes that they just destroyed in just one single beam attack. Like, do the townspeople just keep rebuilding or what? Like, do they just build it, live like normal, and then another attack happens and they just do it all over again? I don't know. Okay. After the demon sword is destroyed, the executioner runs over to the barrier. Remember the barrier that Ashraf and Guido had to finesse their way through? Yep. The executioner is hoping to get through before Guido or Matt catch up to him. Unfortunately for him, Ashraf has already tracked him through his crows. The creature flings a small piece of rock at such a fast speed that it tears the demon hand off the executioner, followed by his other arm, then both his legs. Dude is just bleeding out. Gnarly sight. Side note, I'm pretty sure the real Guido is a man, possibly a demon army leader, but I just keep calling them a she because of their witch form, but plus that's also what Ashraf always calls Guido, so. In the aftermath, the lieutenant realizes how naive he was and hopes to start making changes on how he operates. He takes the executioner as a prisoner to torture after asking Helga if she'd like them executed for the crimes committed against her family, to which she requests to make them regret ever being born. Ashraf lets Helga know that the sword can be repaired at the order if she wants, but Helga knows that it isn't the best idea to do that. But maybe she'll take up on that offer, you know? In the end, the sword thinks to itself about the witch who sealed him, and how hatred never took over her descendant like Helga. It learns to accept Helga as she is before it goes dormant again. Well, for now. With that, the witch and the demon sword act comes to an end, and we head on to another act. Episode 10, chapters 22, Origin Witch. Ashraf leads Helga to the entrance of the corridors, the unofficial hideout of the Order of Magical Resonance. Helga is being onboarded to the order and has signed some sort of magical contract. Not much details are provided on that arrangement, but it's something that I'm very curious about. Also, they don't keep a proper headquarters, or at least one that the members all know about. Guido doesn't accompany them, or rather, she can't go inside due to the limited contract she has. She chills outside when she overhears a kid yelling and screaming, running over to his friends, talking about seeing a witch. That piques her interest, so she jumps down to them and questions them about this witch's location, and threatens to kill them one by one unless they cough up the information. She's great with kids, as you can tell. They lead her to a quaint shop where an old lady greets Guido. Guido trips, and her feet give up on her. But the friendly old lady comes up to help her. The old lady's dog bites one of Guido's arms, and her cat scratches Guido a bit. The old lady apologizes for her pet's behavior and applies ointment on Guido's face and observes her quick healing abilities. Turns out that the granny wasn't a witch at all. The kids were freaking out over absolutely nothing. At the corridor, Ashraf receives word of something disturbing and rushes off to find Guido. Meanwhile, an executioner makes a visit to Guido's location at the granny's shop. This executioner happens to be the other executioner, from the previous chapter. Yeah, he's that guy's partner and little brother. Sven or something was his name. I can't remember. Not important. And you'll see why. He tosses his cloak over her, engulfing her into another dimension. Movement in this dimension without a cloak isn't possible unless permission is granted by the executioner. He has Guido in a tough situation. She's still healing from her recent battle injuries, and the executioner's abilities are preventing Guido from getting up on her feet. He has her in a different space and time. It's intense. At this point, one of the kids from earlier speaks up, and she says how she'd love to chat with Guido as well. Turns out that this little kid is being possessed by the witch that had bewitched Guido, Angela. Angela was able to burst into that space and time by copying the forbidden instruments that belonged to the executioner. Her magical abilities are impressive. Through sheer willpower, Guido gets up, ready to rip out Angela's throat. She's been searching for her for decades. The bloodlust is real. This is her moment. Ashraf and Helga are running around searching for Guido. Ashraf is worried about her. He knows she's too weak to escape from Angela if they come face to face. He requests to Helga to head back to the hideout, since this is Guido's problem, and he doesn't want to inconvenience Helga, but she refuses and wants to help him. She can tell that Guido means a lot to Ashraf. To him, she matters more than his own life. And I know that a lot of people in the fandom really truly believe that Ashraf is in love with Guido, and that it is also insinuated quite a bit in the manga through dialogue or just scenes and panels. But to me, the two characters are still too mysterious. I don't know much about them. There's just too much of a blank right now, you know? We don't know much about Ashraf, like his reasons for joining the order. What is he after? Why did he join? What's the angle? And we also don't know much about Guido and what was Guido like before. I can't get Ashraf's angle. There are times in the manga where Ashraf says that Guido means more to him, not because of just special feelings, like there's other reasons. So the Order does see some high value in Guido's existence. So I just want to know if it's like, if he actually is falling in love with her or if it's for some other reason that we don't know about yet. So I'm a little on the fence, but that's just me. I'm on guard. Guido's human body belongs to the witch that cursed her. Why would she offer up her body to seal her? Another mystery added. She tells Guido to keep chasing her and that she wouldn't be disappointed. It isn't time for the two to have their final showdown, and she heads out. Angela leaves the head and the torso of the executioner hooked onto Granny's shop before completely vanishing. Guido is upset and figures that Ashraf must have half-assed his healing of her legs from the previous mission, and that's why her legs gave out on her at the Granny's shop. She lashes out at him, breaking a few bones before backing out and warning him. Episode 11, Eloquence and Silence. This is a backstory of Ashraf and Guido and how they became acquainted. Ashraf heals his broken bones while reminiscing about the days they'd met. The Order had sent Ashraf to investigate a witch situation in a town. Things were pretty grim there. Once Ashraf arrives in town, he feels the presence of someone interesting, carrying a coffin with them. A couple of kids get harassed by a few farmers, accusing them of blowing their cows into bits, and accusing one of them of being a witch without proof. Ashraf butts into the conversation and uses a spell, ordering them to return back home, showering their wives with love and affection. The kids ask him if he's a witch, which he laughs at. He introduces himself as a mage to the young witch in front of him, Falvel. Her name is that's gonna be a doozy. Falvel. I'm going to mispronounce her name a lot. I'm gonna eat up. I'm gonna start calling her Flavel or something. Just watch, it's gonna happen. Guido approaches the group and launches an attack to which Ashraf is able to counter, blocking her from getting to the child. A giant monster appears and protects the group from Guido before she can do any damage, flinging her across the river. The townspeople see this giant monster and freak out even more. They were already treating Falvel and her family like crap due to her being a witch. The kids invite Ashraf over to their place and offer tea to him. They engage in a sweet conversation while Guido is tied up by a spell Ashraf had conjured up. He demonstrates his magical abilities to the kids while attempting to extract information from Guido after noticing her witch's curse. He also confirms with Owen, this kid right here, the brother of the girl, if Falvel can or cannot speak. She can't. Some sort of witch curse. Ashraf theorizes. Falvel must be a descendant of the origin witch Luna Farmington, who used invocation, but since Falvel is mute, she isn't able to produce spells. Ashraf also theorizes that since the young witch can't use magic, someone is framing the giant monster's appearance and all the strange happenings in the town onto her. Also, that kid right there, his name is Craig. Lock on his face and imprint it in your mind. This little shit stain is kind of relevant later on. But yeah, he moved to this town half a year ago with his father. Ashraf rules him out as a possible suspect, but since I'm letting you know to remember him, you already know. Ashraf asks if they'd like to return to the Order of Magical Resonance with him. He gives them a day to think things through and heads out, letting them know he'd be back the next day. The kids find him really shady, but are willing to go with him. Ashraf at this point has already untied Guido, carrying her coffin as the two walk and talk, theorizing how another witch might have gotten scared of the power of invocation and cursed Falvel. The conversation comes to a halt when they come across a damaged building with people flocking around, witnessing the mayor's bloody murder. The townspeople quickly point the finger at the young witch. Ashraf had his familiars camped outside Favel's house scouting and noticed that an executioner was headed directly to her house. He starts rushing over to aid the kids. Craig, who happens to be on the scene, offers to assist and runs after him when Ashraf suddenly shoots the black-haired kid. Realizing that Craig is actually an executioner and his quote-unquote father is his partner. What made Ashraf suspicious? Well, they were new in town, even if it was half a year ago, and mainly because Craig had touched his throat each time the monster had shown up. An executioner can take on the form of a child. Craig could be a grown man, and we're just looking at a spell that he casted on himself, so that's also another element to this. Executioners don't care if a witch is good or bad. They hunt them all down, farm the harmless ones as well as the dangerous ones. In this case, they were hoping that Falvel truly was hiding her powers, hoping to figure out a way to take her abilities for themselves. Episode 12. Eloquence and Silence, Final Act. Craig uses the creature that we saw earlier to launch an attack at Ashraf. Ashraf gets his ass kinda handed to him. As he's laying against the brick wall, Guido appears before him and asks him to tell her how to get rid of the curse before he dies. If Guido wants to learn how to break a witch's curse, she has to fulfill Ashraf's conditions. Guido has to protect the young witch, Favel. Meanwhile, at Favel's side, her younger brother has been stabbed with pitchforks and is lying in the ground dead before her. Their house has been burnt, and the executioner with her is disappointed to learn that Favel truly doesn't have any powers. He lifts his mask to reveal his face, a familiar face that she thought was kind and on her side. Sorrow floods her, and as it seems if her end is near, Guido intervenes, yelling at the girl to run away while she fights them off. But the executioners don't waste any time in cornering Guido in a tough spot and threatening Favel. Ashraf shows up as well, protecting the child to the best of his abilities from the executioners. Guido is yapping, and before she can even finish her monologue, Favel kisses her, unsealing her true form, giving them both an opportunity to go up against the executioners, especially since Ashraf is still injured. One of the executioners unleashes their creatures at Guido's new form, and she bursts it apart. The few townspeople chase after Falvel, and she's able to speak again. Using her witch powers, she commands the executioner to vanish, and just like that, he perishes. When Guido and Favel's lips touched, both their curses lifted temporarily. Ashraf is able to revive Owen. He offers Guido to return to the Order with him as well. The two banter, and he does his best to learn more about this mysterious, cursed woman. Flashback over. In the present, Ashraf is done healing his injuries. He's a bit disappointed at how quickly Guido reverted back to her hateful, loathing self after just one encounter with Angela. He hopes to be able to teach her what love is. I'm not sure if he means that in a romantic light or any other form or shape, but you can come to that conclusion on your own. In this world, there are special areas. There are 8 continents in total. The most influential organization, the Global Holy Church, has its headquarters in the first continent. The eighth continent is the furthest away from the first, so due to a lack of magic development, people are able to live more comfortably, and they've also developed magic technology with science. This is why the atmosphere, clothes, culture, and technology look so different in each arc whenever the two visit a different continent. In between the seventh and eighth is an island where there is a hole in the middle. It is said that that hole leads to an entrance of another world. It is known as a fall and has an elevator with a total of 17 levels, 17 worlds. They head there because Ashraf had noticed the symbols relating to the level 4 in fall on the executioner's torso at the granny's place. He suspects they'll learn more about Angela at that level. Before heading to level 4, they stop at the level where disguise services are provided. Level 4 is dangerous, and it isn't kind to visitors. They refuse the service of a tour guide and visit a tailor. Ashraf requests the gentlemen for their attire to be in all black, knowing and acknowledging the danger that comes with it. What's this danger? Well, one, their outfits are amazing, and this is also the end of the anime adaptation. And two, from here on, we head to the next arc, Level 4, Olencia Set, deals with vampires. And the dressing in black on this level indicates that the individual is affiliated or a vampire themselves. 4 levels below, chapters 28 to 41. They use a carriage to travel around the Gothic level, stuck decades behind the trends of the surface level, to the buildings, to the attire. The illustrations are so majestic. One of the best parts of reading this manga is its beautiful art. In Orlencia's set, magic does not exist. Just some traces linger. Of course, you can bring instruments and tools from the surface. Their biggest challenge right now is figuring out a way to conceal the gigantic coffin that Ashraf carries for Guido. There's a crowd gathering outside. A dead body with bite marks is found under a bridge. The carriage comes to a halt, and the two step out as Ashraf warns Guido to use her parasol when the sun is out to avoid exposing skin. Why? Because this vampire level is stuck in the period era. So Guido has to appear ladylike due to the culture. Plus, they wouldn't want to give up their disguises. They're waiting at a park for more members from the Order. The only catch is they don't know who and when these members will approach them, so they have to stand out to catch their attention. It's not the most effective method, but that's their only choice. Everyone around them is sneakily making quick glances at them. They all seem to be dressed in lighter clothing or white clothing, because black clothes are likely to invite danger, or rather, is worn only by vampires of this level. So right now, Ashraf and Guido stick out, especially because it's daytime, and vampires wouldn't really be out and about, right? So they truly are the center of attention, as intended. That's why everyone's staring at them, probably trying to keep their distance and not be bitten like that dead body under the bridge. For some reason, I thought everybody on this level was going to be vampires, but hey, there's humans present. A carriage screeches past them and catches their attention. They wait till it starts getting dark. They get in their carriage and head probably to their hotel. Wasted effort for day one, but Ashraf insists how they need the help of the other members from the Order on this level. Thud. Something hits the carriage, and Ashraf at first thinks it's an accident when suddenly a cane comes smashing in through Guido's window, narrowly missing Ashraf's throat. Their carriage has been overturned. Guido slams her leg, opening the door that was trapping them within the crushed carriage. There's another carriage nearby with a man walking closer to them as he chugs down liquor. His teeth, sharp, fangs really, dressed in all black aside from his undershirt. Safe to say that he's a vampire. Now, the question is whether he is on their side or not. Guido wastes no time rushing toward him with a powerful fist attack only to be stopped before landing her hit, catching her by surprise. He wraps his arm around Guido, pulling her closer. I always knew wine could never satiate me, he says, preparing to bite her. But Guido is a wild beast. She bites him super hard, instead catching him by surprise, kicking him. The force pushes her back, but Ashraf catches her. Looks like they're from the Order. The vampire who was teasing Guido is Dunward. The young individual accompanying him is Oscar, another mage like Ashav. It was Dunward's idea of ambushing their carriage. He thought it'd be a bit faster to get things going, plus, they had no time to waste. The action was just beginning. The four are being observed by cloaked figures on top of the roofs. Dunward explains that lately some vampires, usually country bumpkins, have been breaking the vampire code, unaware of the urban etiquette, causing a stir in the community. By that he means the body under the bridge that we all saw. These cloaked figures had noticed Ashraf and Guido earlier and trailed them due to the fact that they were a little too unknown and shady. A fight is about to break out between the vampires and members of the Order, unless they can talk their way out of it. Two cloaked figures run straight to Guido, hoping to chop off her head, but she slams them against the buildings to the side, evading more attacks from other figures. They're hell bent on taking her out first, but she smashes her fists on the ground, unearthing bricks that she uses to smash two out of the three vampires' faces. The third one manages to stab their swords through Guido's hands onto a brick, forcing her to use her free hand to block his bite attack. Pretty sure he gets a nibble before she slams him onto the ground. Dude's a vampire, so he recovers super quick. But Dunward's got Guido's back, crushes the other vampire into a bloody mess. If you can't make a vampire die, you seal them. The mages are just chillin'. They got their barrier to protect them. They have to reserve their magic so they can't really help with the fight. Look at Ashhoff. He's like, oh well, good luck, guys. But he does use his familiars to take care of the small fries. A gigantic ball, if you want to call it that, comes flying in Guido's direction when she evades and grabs the chain portion of it to yank the user to her, which backfires and she's wide open. There's a bright flash before Dunward takes care of the ball user and the other vampires. Dunward seems freakishly strong, like stronger than human witch Guido. Guido has to be careful around level 4. They love a witch's blood more than humans, right? And she is currently, well, in the body of a witch, so there you go. Dunward starts investigating the cloaked figures that they restrained. Turns out that they're all women. At this point in the story, I wasn't sure if this information really mattered, but since they said it out loud through dialogue, I figured that I'd share it all with you. But I think it kind of doesn't matter. It's more about how stronger vampires can subordinate other vampires to kind of listen to them and whatnot. But anyway, the vampire that Oscar and Dunward are on the hunt for is the vampire queen. Her name is Dornez, and Oscar believes that she might have leads on Angela. So Guido is interested. Through this conversation, we are also able to learn that Dunward has been accused of breaking the vampire code, but he says that he's innocent and has captured the country vampires that had actually committed the crime. They're in the carriage. So, is Dunward working with the Order to clear up his name? Not quite. His story unravels later. Also, if you're a lower class citizen, vampires ain't gonna do shit to you because they're too prideful to touch you. Because you're a lowly commoner or too fucking broke for them. I don't know, they're like picky toddlers. What are we, broccoli to them? Dunward converts some of the vampires they restrained into his little servants by biting them and mixing his blood into their body, so they have little spies and assistants now. The panel for that looks a tad bit spicy. They get changed and head to the vampires' masquerade ball. This ball isn't a regular masquerade ball. It's a ball for women entering high society. They are debutantes, right? Kind of reminded me of Bridgerton because that's a whole thing in that show, which checks out because they both are set in the period era, right? Anyway, the dude, yeah, this vampire guy right here, random dude, he's showing off his possession to the world because the lady next to him has most likely made a pact with that vampire. The masks are there to hide the bloodlust on their face. It's a rite of passage for humans hoping to enter vampire society. But like, why? Why would you like be willing to be under their control? Because remember, a high-level vampire can mix their blood with yours and control you. So why would you want to be controlled by them? I don't understand. Maybe there's money or something. Now, Dunward didn't mention his little plan, but He shows up with Guido, walking down the debutante's path. Ashraf is just too stunned, and the other vampires probably can tell that Guido is a witch or smells like one. The bloodlust in the room spikes up. Everyone is in black in that room except Guido, indicating that she's an offering for the king. Once Guido hears Dunward's offer to the king while they're kneeling before him, she restrains herself from ripping his throat out for putting her in that situation. The king's guards demand for Dunward's mask to be removed. He makes a flashy reintroduction amongst his vampire peers. Spears pointed at them on the command of the new king. New king? Why'd I mention that? You see, Dunward is apparently the old vampire king. With that ego, I believe it. How'd he lose the title? Can't be because of those dead humans and the blood drinking by the outside vampires, right? Or can it? Just kidding. It's because the so-called Queen of Vampires stole the throne from him. Who is she? At this point, I had no idea. I'm just hurling my thoughts at you as I was reading the manga, because that's how I usually write my notes, right? And I feel like it builds up suspense, and you and I are both confused and figuring this shit out together. So Dunward, right? He was once the king of the night, and now he's been shunned by his peers and community. They question why he has even bothered to return. They hate him. They want him gone. It's quite dramatic, but entertaining. Like, listen to this from Dunward. I have disgraced and debased the lot of you. That shame must light a fire within you, your innards rent to pieces by your desire to cleanse yourself and dispel your hate. Bars, my dude. Anyway, Dunward continues his theatrics. A fighter representing the Conglade shows up. It's a duel. Or not, because the king refuses to give Dunward a platform and wants him thrown in the dungeon. But Dunward baits Guido again, reminding the king that he is willing to offer him witch's blood. Now, my retelling isn't anywhere as engaging as the actual comic, so do check it out if it piques your interest. Dunward makes a compelling case as to why the king shouldn't refuse his offer of a witch's blood. It's a matter of honor and pride, so the duel must be held. If Dunward wins, he wants to know where the bridge is. The king agrees. The duel is over before it even begins because Dunward rips him apart by the jaws in half. Like, dude's a beast. I mean, he is, because he's a vampire, but still. Crazy, dude. Ashraf is observing everything with Oscar from a balcony with the hostages that they use to get into the party, right? He notices how Dunward is a bit too prideful and how it might come and bite him in the future. In a different scene, we see that the queen is interacting with Angela, whose body is crumbling. The vessel can't be maintained for longer, so she's seeking a new one. Angela warns the queen that soon she'll have some visitors seeking out intel on Angela. She requests that the queen stop them for her. Chapter 33. After all that, Dunward drinks but can't get drunk and wanders into Ashraf and Guido's room, attempting to drink Guido's blood before getting his lights knocked out by Guido. He's looking for trouble, but not on Ashraf's watch, who shoos him away. Dunward returns back to his room to be greeted by Oscar, who questions him if he went to bug Guido again. He flings the table in front of him to the side in frustration. He is getting weaker by the minute, due to a lack of proper feeding. In the morning, the guards of the city are tapping on the buildings. I actually don't know what the purpose of that was. It's not touched on. Maybe that's something they did in the period era. If any of you know what the heck, why they're doing that, let me know, because I don't know. Maybe I should look it up. Ashraf notices a cat familiar outside the window spying on them from a nearby alley. Vampires don't have magic, so the Conglade must have hired someone from the surface for assistance. Meaning we might see more new faces, or maybe not. The two have till sundown to enjoy their time around Olencia's set, since Dunward is going to start bugging both of them at night. The two get dressed in lighter clothing to not affiliate themselves with vampires, and start searching the place for a restaurant to dine in. Guido has to stay in character while they're down there, so she can't run around like a wild beast. She behaves for now, and voices her concern about the other two, Oscar and Dunward, that is, possibly backstabbing the two of them down the line. Ashraf reassures her about Oscar, but agrees that they need to keep their guard up. For now, he asks her to trust him, which she is willing, catching Ashraf by surprise since Guido can be quite stubborn. You can feel the atmosphere through the panels of these pages, so dark and mysterious. The eerie vampire night begins with the four strolling down the moonlit night to find the bridge that Dunward had requested. The bridge is supposed to be a neutral entity, representing the vampires and humans. Vampires swarm inside the location, indulging in the human blood. The four pass by the strange sight and into the chambers of a particular vampire, Dunward's brother, to be exact, also known as the bridge, who has two gentlemen tied up, knives to their throat, reminding them that the night is for the vampires and that they do not belong. This vampire and his group have been tasked with capturing travelers from the service. He says this while glancing over the four, ordering for the men to be slaughtered. So, if you've noticed that the two men that they've slaughtered, well, the first one, should be a little recognizable. That's the dude who offered to be the tour guide when Ashraf and Guido entered the level before level 4. The other person that got murdered was the man who suggested the restaurant to them. I didn't really mention him earlier because he was there for like a split second and bam, now he's dead, right? Guido cuts to the chase and asks the bridge if the vampire queen is a witch. She doesn't give a rat's ass about the tension between the siblings. What they gather is that the queen is a pureblood vampire, but one day she just magically had extraordinary strength. You and I know that she's acquainted with Angela. My theory was that the queen gave Angela permission to use her body as a vessel, but as we both know and will know, that's kind of bullshit. Angela simply granted her some of her magical abilities. After that bloody mess, the bridge invites them to dinner, providing them with new outfits to switch into. Ashraf warns Dunward to back off Guido and to stop using her, or he wouldn't hesitate to get rid of him. Dunward gets his threats and understands. Some of these panels discussing what Guido's value is to Ashraf made me curious. Why is Ashraf so hell-bent on protecting Guido? And why does he value her more than his own life? He says it isn't because of some special feelings for her, and that if only it was that. So what is it? You're killing me here, brother. But I guess that's how this mangaka keeps some of us hooked, right? Through questions and curiosity. We're at the dinner table now, with everyone in their new fancy outfits. Meals for 3 races have been prepared. Blood for the vampire, roast meat for the witch and the humans. The younger brother of Dunward goes off on a gourmet rant and rambling about some elite human he consumed years ago. It was giving tame Tsukiyama vibes. He alludes to the meat being human meat, to which Guido pays no mind and takes a bite, commenting on how it isn't poisoned at least, or that's what she thinks. The conversation quickly shifts to the Queen's location. Dunward's brother, Bridge, refuses to give the information for free and requests for Guido to become his woman, her body and blood, to be his until sun rises. Guido doesn't mind as long as they can get the information they need on the Queen and to be a step closer to Angela. Her only condition is that a spell contract be cast to reassure that no one breaks their end of the deal. And just like that, the deal's off. Turns out that something really was poison. Guido's hands are shaking crazy. Guido yells to warn Ashraf, but he's already passed out on the table. Bridge lunges forward and grabs Guido by the neck, slamming her down. He never intended to exchange information and planned to hand them to the Queen as a tribute. Oscar and Dunward are unharmed. A side deal is made between the bridge and Dunward. Through a door's small barred window, a small ray of light pierces the dark room. Guido wakes up from a short nightmare due to water droplets hitting her face. She finds herself and Ashraf tied up in chains, in a dungeon probably. Ashraf begins, with Guido only responding with, "What's going on here?" Ashraf lets her know that he hadn't eaten a single thing at the dinner, so it had to be something that they inhaled in the room. He recalled a sweet aroma in the room. Something in the candles, maybe? Yep, it was the candles. There was some poisonous blood mixed in with the candles, and the wind was blown in Ashraf and Guido's direction. Dunward had noticed that, but chose to keep it quiet, hoping to still strike a deal with his brother. In the next panel, it looks as if the bridge had Ashraf's fingers chopped off, but we can't be sure till later. Spoiler alert, it's not Ashraf's fingers, but I thought it was for a split second. The bridge tells Dunward to take Guido with him to the Queen, and to offer her while disguising his own identity, since the queen is looking for Ashok and Guido. A carriage stops by the bridge's place, and so he excuses himself. Meanwhile, at the prison, a chained up Guido asks Ashok what love is, catching him off guard. Guido wants to know what love is and if it'll grant her powers. Love is power, huh? How romantic, Ashok responds. Guido insists on being taught what love is. He leans over to her. It looks as though he was leaning in for a kiss, maybe hovering over for consent. She grabs him by the neck over his shackles, quickly realizing his intentions. She wipes off the markings binding his spell-casting abilities. He undoes Guido's shackles and begins to draw out poison in their system. I feel like this manga baits you a lot when it comes to Ashok and his feelings for Guido. Like, I thought he would actually kiss her. But moving on. Guido warns Ashok of touching her before warning her, because she's been working on sharpening her senses since her last encounter with Angela. She wants to avoid sneak attacks like the last time. After they break free from their restraints, they begin to wander out in the hallway, slightly lost before Guido senses force nearby. A hand reaches out and slams Ashok's face into the brick wall, swiftly moving to grab Guido by the neck. Jeez. Give Guido's neck a break. Well, not like that, but you know. It's the vampire queen, and oh shit, she is hot! Also, Guido is fired up once she realizes that the freakishly strong baddie is the one they've been looking for. There's a moment of silence before Ashok breaks it by reaching out his hand and casting a powerful spell, making the queen retreat for a bit before she comes rushing again, smashing against the barrier. Ashok calls out to Guido to retreat while they still have a small window, but she doesn't want to. They've come so far, so close to figuring out Angela. She doesn't want to back down, but Ashok reminds her how they are in anime territory, and she needs to remember how things went down during her last encounter with Angela. They need to be better prepared, sharper in both mind and body. She clenches her fist in frustration. Outside, the bridge is conversing with a few men, and bam! Suddenly a wave of crows rush out of the building in front of them. Ashok's familiars create an escape route for the two. The bridge grabs his sword and jumps high, hoping to take down at least Ashok with him, but alas, all he got was a decoy. The two had almost made a successful getaway, but the queen is right behind them. A bright light comes from the building they had just exited, the structure blasted apart as she pursues them. She's like a witch, they both say. The vampire queen has rune markings around her body like a witch. Her spell brings them down as it splits the building in half. They find Guido unconscious underneath the rubble, but Ashok's whereabouts are unknown. Bridge lets Dunward know that the only way the vampire queen will meet him is if he delivers the mage to her. Dunward and Oscar head out, searching for the sly mage on the run, but luckily find him, or rather, he finds them. Lurking out from the shadows, being carried on the back of a puma, must be one of his other familiars. He requests the two to help him get back to Guido with a dead gaze. Dunward walks up to him and yells at him, asking him if he's lost his mind. That he betrayed him, how could he even ask him to team up again? Since Dunward seems unwilling, Ashok casts a spell attack against him, piercing the vampire's body. Members of the Order shouldn't be able to harm one another, but it seems as if Ashok knows a work around that. He basically binary codes his brain so it functions like a computer. He says that the magic is incompatible with machines and electronics, so he mechanized his own mind with ones and zeros. After clearing the air a bit, Oscar agrees to get Guido back since they owe him that much. The moon still shines bright, and underneath it, a bloody sight. Fingers sealed in special restraints that are bolted through his hands, Ashok is presented to the vampires by Dunward and Oscar. A carriage is prepared for them to be escorted to the Queen's castle. At the castle, in the shadows of the dark chamber, the vampire queen makes her way to the chained-up Guido. She's sitting on a bed, surrounded by a cushion. Better than dungeon dirt, I guess. Rune markings light up her body, probably some form of restraint spell. There's some tension between the two. The vampire queen is disgusted by Guido's attitude while inside Angela's old body. Clearly, she holds the old witch to a high regard. Guido attempts to evoke a reaction out of the queen by biting her lips, making it bleed, catching the queen's attention. She actually kisses her lips, licks off the blood, and then slaps Guido for her insolence. The queen starts going off on an abstract rant about how Guido, the witch's kiss, was a curse. but to her it was love. I'm guessing Angela cursed this lady to have witch powers, right? So when she kissed Guido, Guido didn't poof into her coffin body, so clearly Dornez is just a vampire who has magic. Not normal, according to the world building. Oscar and Dunward, with plague mask on, finally reach the castle with a tied up Ashav. The queen heads to deal with them. Once she leaves, Guido breaks free from her restraint, destroying anyone that gets in her way of escaping. She finds an impressive set of axe and uses it to slaughter any vampire looking for a fight. The vampire queen asks if the masked visitors have any wishes. She is willing to reward them for turning in the mage. Their request is simply have a glance at the witch in her castle. That would suffice. The queen motions for her guards, who slowly surround the three. The queen wants them slaughtered. She tries to make Dunward kneel for her, but he'd rather burn at the stake than do that. He hates her with a burning passion and is ready to get his revenge on Dornez. As Dunward takes on the vampire queen, Ashraf uses his familiars to search for Guido after Oscar undoes his restraints. Dude's in a rough shape, like Ashraf looks like shit. Meanwhile, Guido figures out that the axe that she's been using is like the grimoire that those boys were using. It needed sacrifices for its strength it gave. It needed the user's life force. The fight outside between Dunward and Dorness is flashy and intense. The queen seems unstoppable due to her witch's power she's been granted. Everything is so grand and insane in this scene and gets blown away. If you've seen the anime, you know how big scale the fights tend to be. It's just destructive. Dunward sees an opportunity and strikes, driving a hole through Dornez's head. For a split second, it seems as though he has won this fight, but the vampire queen's head regenerates in seconds, shocking everyone. Before her monster familiar chomps Dunward, sharp fangs of the beast bleed with Dunward's blood as the queen regains her strength and form. Through the gaps between the beast's fangs, Dunward dangles, yelling out how he'd rather die with his vampire pride. The queen takes a dagger from her assistant and stabs Dunward's heart. We get a Dunward flashback. Long story short, he was a menace, slaughtering mages, ripping people apart. His rampage had no end. Even other vampires began looking at the surface level to help stop Dunward. He was a boogeyman, terrorizing everyone, and yet he had a human as a wife, which puzzled even his most loyal followers. Why? They all wondered, but the heart wants what it wants, right? Because the manga gives us no details on that. Since Dunward does have children, they are half vampires. They come to say goodnight to him with their mom. They leave after Dornez calls to Dunward as Your Majesty, beckoning him to rest for now. And I was like, oh, they fucking, right? They are. I will show you half the panel because ain't nobody trying to see Dunward's butt cheeks. Anyway, it's not like they are lovers. At some point in the sex scene, he gets angry and chokes her out for pointing out that he's cheating on his wife. He hurts her so bad that she can't heal her wounds. Later, she's distraught and frustrated at how weak her blood and body are, washing off the blood at a low streaming creek when Angela appears, asking her if giving her powers would stop her tears. Dunward had started war with humans, and as they began their battle, half the humans invaded his castle, where his wife and children were. Leading this attack was Dornez, with her newfound witch abilities, setting the entire castle ablaze. Dunward's wife and children are burnt at the stake. It's gnarly. Dornez walks over to Dunward, who's grieving next to the burnt corpse of his child. She taunts him, letting him know how she watched his family be tortured, how they had no last words as they screamed to death. The sun rises and Dunward is beaten up without a fight. The bright rays burn him, slowly killing him. Dornez portals away with her new powers. Dunward manages to crawl into the shade, laying there with the corpse of his child, or what looks like to be a corpse of a child. He lays there, thinking to himself of wanting another chance, and as he does, Oscar emerges from the bright light, extending their bloody hand to him in exchange for forging a pact with them. In the present, Ashraf successfully guides Guido with his familiars to the fight scene. She barges in with her new bloody axes, launching an attack on Dornez's beast, chopping its head off before swinging at the vampire queen. Another series of insane attacks follow. Dornez hurls a compressed blast ball spell at Guido. She doesn't sustain damage due to Ashraf's familiars. He catches Guido from the impact, and the two strategize how to win this battle. Without a witch to kiss, they can't release Guido to her true form. Ashraf points out how Dornez's immortality makes her quite arrogant, so all they need to do is look for an opening. On the other side, Oscar asks Dunward to drink their blood. He is weak because he hasn't had human blood in so long. Due to their pact, Oscar is his only source of blood, and right now, he needs all the strength that he can get to take down the queen. They argue, but Dunward gives in due to the desperation of their situation and drinks Oscar's blood despite vowing to never drink human blood again. That's what got him into all this mess, right? His wars with humans over his rampages. Ashraf and Guido aren't looking so good right now. Clothes torn, wounds covering their bodies. They're cornered by the witch. She inches closer with another power attack when Dunward bolts towards them in a more beastly form. He looks more like a werewolf than a vampire. Both creatures of the night, associated with the moon, make sense in this world. They always talk about being blessed by the moon, right? Dornez shifts her focus from the two in front of her onto the creature charging towards her. She can't keep up with his speed. Using this to his advantage, Dunward bites the head of his opponent, restricting her movement, before using the powers bestowed upon him from the moon to aim a beam at her, blasting her into bits. As her beat-up remaining body lays on the throne, Dunward walks up in his humanoid form to question her about the whereabouts of his daughter. He figured out that a child of a vampire and a human doesn't burn away by the sun. So, where was his daughter? She'd been given up to Angela as a new vessel. She's lurking about the castle, watching them. The queen's body lights up with ruin marks, a message from Angela before she dies, her last words questioning if she truly will die without ever experiencing love. Once the queen is down, a new set of faces and some familiar ones emerge. They toss a headless body down. Dunward's brother. Oh, so it would seem. He isn't actually dead. We see him later in a different panel, so I don't know who the hell they cut up, but they say it's Dunward's brother, but they're on crack. Anyway, but those vampires plan on rebuilding Orlencia set, or rather Conglade. Harpoon stabbed through Dunward. The vampire leading this new assault orders his men to kill them all except the witch, Guido. Ashraf is at his limit. Mixing science with magic took a huge toll on him. He doesn't have an ace up his sleeve, but they'll be fine, because Oscar is on their side. Every level has its own creature that controls that level. 17 creators for the 17 worlds. Oscar is the descendant of Lionel Orlencia, the Great Witch. Oscar creates an artificial sun, blasting the vampires with its rays. And it was at this moment that I realized Oscar was a man, a male witch, the only one in the series so far. And I had been writing my notes with the incorrect pronouns, but you probably won't notice that because I might use she, her here and there, but I'll keep it to they, them. So it'll be a mystery, you know? But I probably butchered a lot of details in the process. Once all that is done and over with, in a carriage ride with the bridge, the three conversate over the murky details of why Dornez had Dunward's daughter by her side for hundreds of years. Why did the witch choose her as the next vessel? So many questions, little to no answer. But that brings us to an end to the vampire arc. Volumes 9 and 10, The Witch's Relic. Ashraf opens the door, walking towards Guido. He says, "You know, I always get a shiver before I open such doors. I worry what I would do if you weren't on the other side." The two have some time off. They head down to a festival. It'll take time to decipher the message Angela left for them on the queen's body, so they might as well take some time off and enjoy their day. It's a cute little date where Ashraf seems more into it than Guido, per usual. They walk into an antique shop. They window shop for a while. Guido comes across this human-sized doll. It's beautiful, so she moves closer to examine it. The shop owner lets her know that it's a relic from a witch, the recluse doll. That doll helps the shopkeeper keep the general public away from his shop. Only those who the tools call for can find the shop. Guido questions the doll if it knows a witch by the name Angela Ann Hill. Of course, it doesn't respond. It's a doll. Or can it? Guido asks the old man to move closer to the doll, and he places his ears near her. A voice. The doll is alive, whispering out the old man's secrets of illegally trading in some magical items. If a human soul was transferred into the doll, like Guido's soul into the witch's body, then they might have some form of connection. Maybe that's why this magical item spoke to Guido. Ashraf ends up bargaining with the shop owner and buys the doll for Guido. The doll is a yapper, and Guido can't stand her chat. Chapters 43 to 58. Chaos inside the storm. Misha's over at Guido's apartment. I don't know if I mentioned who Misha was. Misha helps take care of Guido and cooks food for her, acts like her maid slash assistant. Yeah, so there you go. Misha. She exclaims how beautiful the day is when she turns to Guido and notices her feeding the doll. Not actually feeding, but the way you would while playing with dolls. It's strange, but makes sense. The doll had requested to get a quote unquote taste of her meal. Misha's confused by why Guido is chatting with a doll and inquires. At this point, Ashraf comes to visit and drops a kid with a bowl cut. He wants Guido to take the kid in. He might be related to Angela. 10 days ago. Matt Kugat has been summoned by his superior officer Keith. They could really use Matt's help. There's some serious trouble brewing. A massive hurricane is spiraling out of control due to the flow of magic unraveling within the storm. The storm will pass by that location, and unfortunately, the castle's presence makes it likely that something might convert the regular hurricane into a magical disaster. Keith can't give more details than that, and ushers Matt into a room to introduce him to a kid known as Carl Oakleaf. You and I already know the shit stain. Remember that kid, Craig, from the episodes involving the executioners in Falvel? Yep, it's him. He's just changed his name, and he is now Matt's new partner. The Archmages, all 5 of them from around the world, will also be joining in on this mission. It's suspicious how much effort the Paladin Corps is pouring into a simple hurricane that has low chances of turning to shit more than just a natural disaster. I'm not the only one that's suspicious about how much manpower they're gathering. Matt wonders what truly is going on, too. And let's be honest, it's witches. Or in this case, a group of witches this time. Also, I'm pretty sure Matt would knock the fucking daylight out of Carl if he found out that he used to be an executioner or is an executioner, but we'll see. So, this is on the day of the hurricane. A demon eye barrier ends up attracting creatures and beasts of all sorts. Within the hurricane is the coven of witches. The Paladin Corps prepares for the assault from the enemy. Matt turns the hurricane into a snowstorm. The witches do their best to break through the barriers in place, and gosh, another baddie. The women in this manga. A work of art, I say. There's actually 3 witches in that storm. It'll be a tough battle, and they will be able to take on Matt Kugat. The witches are undoing the barriers placed by the Paladin Corps without a sweat, making Matt suspicious. Someone must have leaked the barrier spells and their workings to the witches. They have a traitor on their side. And we love to see character development. He has learned from the past and is more cautious. I love that. Commander Gill shows up. He knows Matt won't be able to hold off the witches on his own. Matt doesn't let his guard down, and he starts thinking about the precautions he should take and who he really should trust in this battle. From afar, Fenora and Johan are observing the battle. Fenora's Death Knights are also helping in the fight. Helga is there too, with her demon sword. She's been given permission to use it by the Order. Helga takes on one of the witches and uses her sword abilities that Matt notices immediately, hoping that the Order and the Paladins are working together. A group makes it past the barrier and into the castle, headed towards Keith, wanting the magical instrument at that location. Keith might have been the traitor, but who knows? All we do know is that he ends up dead later on. It's a group like the Order, but different. Johan heads up towards that commotion, hoping to stop this group in its tracks. One of the Death Knights accompanies him. They end up in a duel with the other group. Johann tries to stop them from taking the forbidden instruments before Angela in her new form shows up and forces his body down into the ground. And bam, just like that, splat. He temporarily dies. But remember, he's an undead. He will regenerate or come back, right? But for now, just like that, he's gone. This new group is hers, right? It's Angela's. And they're collecting all sorts of magical forbidden instruments. Before Angela is able to leave, one of the archmages catches up and shoots a beam through her chest. Magical circle ruins fill up the sky. A massive attack is about to be launched. The Archmage summons just one arm of the dragon, and it's enough to cause massive destruction. The aftermath leaves us with more questions. Who was the mole? Why did they steal the forbidden instruments? Why were that group of witches and mages working together? Why the hell are archmages so OP? And why aren't there more archmages? Why is there only 5? Carl reveals his connection to the executioners and shares the information he has to Matt. Witches are gathering from all over. Tons of forbidden items are being stolen. Something big is happening. Angela is gathering an army, honestly. Carl isn't there to monitor Matt, but to recruit him. They need someone powerful in this fight. He knows that Matt hates their idea of justice, but he hopes that he will join forces with the executioners. He shares everything about the executioners with him. But we, the audience, aren't really let in on the details as the comic pans over to Helga and Fenora's interaction. Fenora lets Helga know that she's happy that she survived. Fenora used to be Helga's mother's friend. She's just happy that Helga's made it out, both the times, alive. They share a happy, small, cute little moment before Johann comes running shirtless with a baby. Well, it's a forbidden instrument that starts as a seed, slowly turning into a baby within 10 days. A child. The bowl-hair kid that Ashoff left with Guido. Volume 10. The Nameless Seed. The last volume before the series goes on a hiatus goes over the bullhead kid. Whenever he is near magic, he can't help but absorb it. Guido is the perfect babysitter due to her lack of magical abilities. The Order is trying to figure out where to relocate the child. Ashoff puts a ring on Guido's finger. It's fused with minimal amount of magic and is a device that she can use to receive assistance from him in case things go to shit because of the kid. The Relic doll is in the corner of the room. She asks if it's wise for the child to be near her since she's magical. Guido reassures her that the Order prefers that the child be there, especially because the doll is a recluse doll, or rather, a recluse spell was used on the doll. It'll make it harder for the shady group to find the child. The kid looks over at Guido, kind of confused, right? But she tells him to ignore her and that she's just talking to herself and that doll in the corner. If she doesn't make eye contact with him, she ain't chatting with him, so he can just relax and go back to playing. So he does. Meanwhile, Carl takes Matt to a secluded location to meet with the leader of the executioners, into a barrier that leads into a space that's controlled by the mage who created it. They set their rules for that world, like the one executioner with the cloak, when Guido thought that the granny was a witch. Matt enters the space, leading to a beautiful garden with candles surrounding a bridge, a gazebo in the distance next to an enormous tree. They walk past the gazebo towards the giant tree. At the tree, a small entrance exists leading inside to a building structure. The leader is an invisible man wearing a mask and suit to make his presence known. He explains what the executioners are and what they stand for. They exist to make sure the global holy church survives and is prosperous. No cool fighting for world peace like the Paladin Corps. Matt has been invited because the executioners are stockpiling powers to go up against the witches. They are interested in him, so he is given a mask and is asked to help in aid battling the witches. The Holy Church has 3 saints: the healer, the defender, and the seer. The seer can make prophecies and has had a vision of the battle. They intend on following the instructions laid out by the saint to win this battle. Now, I'm getting tired of yapping, and I'm also tired of the bullshit by the executioners. I'm a skeptic, okay? I don't know if the Paladin Corps and the executioners are actually fighting the good fight, and if the leader of the executioners is actually telling the truth, or is Matt being used again? So, I'm suspicious. Ashraf meets up with another member of the Order, Ganzik, exchanging information on the forbidden instruments, including the child that was handed in Guido's care. The other members of the Order are being hunted down in the pursuit of the child. So far, No one has exposed the location of the child. Ganzik intends to come and collect the child in 3 days, so till then they have to stay out of the coven's sights. Later at night, while Guido sleeps, the kid just walks up and stares at her like, oh, look. He's so creepy. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just a hater, but he goes back to his spot and sleeps. But maybe he wanted to, like, get in the bed and cuddle. Who knows? But then again, he's been alive for 10 days. I'm suspicious of him. A mage from the Order of Magical Resonance is murdered by the witch group. They're struggling to get a lead on the kid's location. They don't understand why the members of the Order don't know what goes on in their own organization. I mean, I don't know, guys. Like, maybe it's a secretive society? So, duh? But these witches, they're not the brightest. Back at the apartment, the kid stares at the knife in Misha's hand as she's cutting vegetables. Ruin markings appear all over him, and he conjures up his own knife out of thin air, handing his creation to Misha as a gift. She accepts nervously. He conjures up another for Guido, who picks him up and scolds him about not using his powers unless she tells him to, and not to wander far away from her. He nods. He hasn't spoken a word so far. In a separate location, familiar faces are reintroduced. Remember Falvel and her brother Owent? I'm pretty sure the T is silent, but I'm just going to start saying Owent. They're running their own little shop in town. They receive some mail from the Order, specifically from Ashaf. He's just checking up on them, wishing them well, but there's also another reason why he contacts them. He is worried about the siblings. Their lives might be in danger. The Coven of Witches might come for Falvel. He sends them a magical toolkit for protection and reassures them that the Order will keep them safe. I hope so, because this chapter started off with a mage whose fingers were chopped off, falling from a building. But anyway, while the kids are sleeping, danger lurks their way. Lucy, a member from the Order, has been overseeing the safety of the children and drops by to wake them up, letting them know that enemies are outside their house. She had placed a barrier to prevent them from getting in, but these enemies are a bit too much for Lucy. They're surrounded by enemies, trapped in the house. Owent hands Lucy the magical toolkit Ashraf had sent him, but Lucy lets the kids know that they need to use the tools for themselves to escape. She can't use it. The front door slams in. The mages begin walking in, scanning for the siblings. Lucy jumps down the stairs to go against one of the enemies. In an attempt to help her, Owen picks up one of the magical tools, a small ball that he fills up with magic and tosses at the creature. Once he removes the ball from the original container, its weight increases. After the ball is tossed, it slowly begins to transform into Ashraf's crow familiars, attacking the creature. Taking advantage of the moment they gain, Lucy yells at the two to run towards the basement room and to insert the key that was in the magical box tool from Ashraf. Once in, Lucy yells at them to go on without her, but Owen ain't having none of that and yanks her arm, pulling her into the door with them. The house begins to shapeshift, turning into a labyrinth. Once away from immediate danger, the kids question Lucy who those cloaked figures were. Were they executioners? No, Lucy lets them know, but she isn't exactly sure about the details. One of the cloaked figures uses his cloak to transport ocean waves into the labyrinth, hoping to drown them out or at least catch a lead on their location. The waves come crashing through one of the doors, the force slamming against them. Another problem has been added. A shark is on the loose in the water and has ripped off Lucy's left leg. Owen swims and grabs her, keeping Lucy and his sister close by, while trying to insert the key into a new door before the shark successfully attacks again. They get away from the shark, but the labyrinth has just been undone. They lay in front of the enemy, who wastes no time in ripping off Lucy's fingers before she can cast any spells. Owen throws another magic ball from the toolbox. A puma pounces out this time, ripping one of the cloaked figures. The mage with one demon eye uses his crazy eye to blast the puma into tiny bits, threatening the lot to answer his question or else he'll open his eye again. They question Lucy about the seed, the forbidden instrument that she has no clue about. Sucks to be Lucy right now. He slaughters Lucy, traumatizing the kids once again. Owen is bent down, crying from the sight he witnessed as Falvel cries by his side. staring at the enemy. Or so it seems. Owent had used the last magic tool Ashraf had in that toolbox, a device that has needles that can be hooked into Owent and Falvel's arms, drawing out their magical abilities. Owent writes out the one spell he knows, a mark cannon spell. He aims and blasts it at the enemy's direction. The summoner mage redirects the blast through his cloak. Shit luck, honestly. They yank out the needle devices from the siblings' arms and punch Owent. The demon eye mage holds Owent down as the other sick fuck calls Falvel not a real witch and not beautiful while beating her up. Not for long because I wasn't expecting this shit, but Dunward shows up, ripping off the leg of the beast with them and crushing the demon eye mage's head off. I know I wasn't the biggest fan of Dunward at times during the vampire art, but boy did that brighten my mood, cause ain't nobody trying to read child abuse for fun. Dunward's about to kick some major ass of this child assaulter, but the demon eye that he yanked out of the mage's head starts acting up, sucking up things in the area, causing the landscape to slide and buildings to collapse. I mean, come on, when does shit not collapse in this series? Dunward protects the kids from the debris. The only cloaked mage escapes. Owent asks them if Ashraf sent them. He did, plus the two were interested in catching the mages aligned with the Coven of Witches. They uncover Lucy and lay her body next to the kids. The kids are upset. They're crying over the loss of Lucy when Oscar kisses Favel, undoing her curse temporarily, letting her know that she can bring back Lucy if she wants with her abilities. In another scene, we see Johann fighting off undead creatures, similar to Fënora's Death Knights, when suddenly they vanish, leaving a stomach wound on Johann that just wouldn't stop bleeding. This is bad. Have the enemy figured out a way to counter Fënora's undead regeneration? Another change in scene. This creepy kid is spacing out, staring at the city outside the window. He steps outside of the window, standing on the ledge, and falls, but Guido grabs him and scoops him back inside. Later at night, he glares at her sleeping again, and this time he does go in and cuddle with her. So he just wanted affection, I guess. Guido frequently has nightmares, but that night she slept like a baby. 3 days later, Ashraf, Guido, and the kid are at the spot Ganzig was going to pick him up from. Ashraf's amused by Guido letting the kid cuddle with her to sleep. Ashraf theorizes that Guido's nightmares must have a magical element to them, and that the kid must have absorbed them, nutrients for the growing kid. Ganzig arrives, and Guido instructs the kid to go with them, but he stares at her. So Ashraf gets down to the kid's level and reassures to him that he'll get to see Guido real soon. What a dad you are, Ashraf. What a dad you are. So the kid lets go of Guido. He had been gripping on her dress the entire time. By the way, they did not name the kid anything. He does not have a name, so that's why I've been calling him the child and the kid. So he is nameless right now. That's why it's called the Nameless Seed, but yeah, anyway. Once the kid leaves, a dude in white suit shows up, introducing himself as their enemy. Guido pulls out her axes. I have no idea where she kept them and where she pulled them out from, but she's ready to fucking fight. She slices her blood to feed it. There's an explosion behind them. Enemies over there with the kid too. Guido rushes over to the kid and Ashraf handles the suit guy. He's the witch's disciple. He uses a spell to turn himself into a fire-breathing dragon. So, good luck, Ashraf. The girl sitting on a ball who attacked near the kid is Styler, I think? Her name is strange and I don't know how to pronounce it, but I will say Styler. Styler makes more sense. So the disciples are like the vampire queen. They are loved by witches and powers are bestowed upon them. He nods to Guido, indicating her to take the kid and run as he hopes to hold off the mage before him. Another mage from the order helps him, but Styler tosses a stray orb in the direction of Guido. It engulfs those in its way, sucking in their bodies like a compressed black hole. Guido barely manages to duck away. The kid starts recreating what he had just seen and aims the orb at Styler, catching her off guard. Meanwhile, Ashraf is handling the dragon mage in his own style, using his familiars and spells, luring it over the bridge near the water, summoning a serpent that coils its body around the dragon, suffocating it. People run away from the chaos. Imagine getting off work and shit goes down while you're in traffic. Like, I'd be pissed. Ashraf leaves the coffin with Guido, letting her know that she might need it. Styler might have been taken down, but another enemy appears. Another baddie, who is a cop. So maybe not the enemy, but not looking good for Guido. A coffin, an axe in her hand, and a kid by her side. No time to figure shit out because Styler has some fight left in her and uses another gravitational spell. That's not the actual name of the spell, but that's just what I'm calling it. But it quickly starts sucking people up in its vicinity. The cop realizes quickly that Styler's a witch, and Guido points out that she's been behind the current rampage going on. Another cop shows up at the scene with his grimoire, bursting the gravitational orb and freeing the people up, yelling at them to all run away. The cops in the city have strong mages. The dark-haired cop goes against Styler, using his grimoire to pull out some crazy ruins, creating a defensive structure around him. The witch kind of loses her cool and launches an array of attacks. Guido is unable to prevent them from harming the child. The forbidden tool is about to go berserk. And yeah, that's where the manga ends, on a cliffhanger. We have no idea what happens next. I'm not sure if a couple more chapters have been released that haven't been translated in English yet, since I tend to read the official versions. Final thoughts. I've yapped for so long at this point, but yeah, I guess I might as well share some of my final thoughts before I wrap up this video, right? One, I enjoyed this manga very much. You know, believe it or not, despite all the romance content on my channel, I absolutely enjoy supernatural, thriller, mystery, adventure type manga, anime more. Those are the type of books I also love reading, you know, kind of more on that dark side. I really enjoy stories like this that have a different world building, that deviate from a regular or default fantasy where people like to have their magical creatures match up with what we normally know them to behave like. Kind of like how Dunward is a vampire that turns into a werewolf. They have mages. I thought the cops were all normal detectives based off what we saw in the anime and the characters that were introduced, right? Throughout the series, I thought that, you know, the mage, Kira, I thought she was a one-off detective that happened to have magical abilities. I didn't really realize that they had, you know, mages, a mage department or mages within the police department. So I just think that we left off at such a good point. It gets so good. Like all the build up it feels like all the episodes and everything you read in the manga is just a long-winded character introduction, and that shit is finally starting to happen. The cops that you see at the end of the manga, those two characters, they are so interesting to me. I would love to learn more about them, right? So yeah, that's all I'm gonna share because I've yapped for a little too long on this video summarizing everything. Let me know what you thought. And personally, it was a fun ride sharing this, you know, little story with you all. Hopefully you're interested enough to go and check out the manga yourself. And yeah, let me know if you're interested in The Witch and the Beast as well, and if you're gonna give it a try, you know, and read it yourself. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.